Focus? Okay, the camera wasn't focusing. This is my first wood stove video of this year. The pets are gonna be like crazy through this video because it's either them being needy or the sounds of them eating in the background, which I'm sure nobody really wants. Because after I film this, I'm gonna feed them. So you folks really enjoyed my wood stove videos from last season, so I thought that I would do some wood stove videos as well this season. Now, in the tiny house, after a full season of not using my wood stove, you can see that there is just a buildup of unsafe things around the wood stove. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is clean up these boxes. These are boxes of stuff that I've cleaned out from the main house. This box is actually stuff that I recently bought from my local hardware store. These are mostly supplies for cleaning my flue pipe, which I do want to clean out this fall. Last year I paid people to come and clean it out, and like that was fine, but it was really expensive. It was about $100 every time for that person to come out. And but it was my first year of ever having a wood stove, so I wanted to pay somebody who was theoretically more of an expert than me. But I have confidence that I can do it myself this year, so mostly what's in this box is just supplies to clean out my flue. I know that the sound in this video is going to be pretty wonky probably because I'm not using my microphone whenever I'm doing a lot of talking lately. I've been trying to use the microphone on my phone, but I have to use my hands, so. Mama, can you please come lie down? Come on. Good boy, buddy. Alright, so I had to move my dog. I just moved the boxes over there. I'll deal with them later. Some other things that I usually check around my wood stove are, in the springtime I had some problems with ants, so these are just like little ant trapper things that just get kicked around the house, so I'm gonna have to throw those in the garbage. And then of course I have to remove the odd cat toy. The cats will play with their toys around the wood stove. If it becomes a super big problem, I put all the cat toys like away. Last year it wasn't a huge issue though. I just moved their toys away from the wood stove and it was fine. Some of you folks were asking me what is around my wood stove. I didn't talk about this a whole lot last year because I wanted to like sort of see how the things that I'm using for my wood stove, like in terms of a heat barrier, whatever these things are called. It's the thing that's on the floor and the thing that's behind my wood stove. So I have steel, it's just metal, both behind my wood stove and also on the floor. The steel that is on the floor is bolted like directly into my floor. There is no 1-inch air gap on the one on my floor because, and just like last year, although Tiny Wood Stoves, if you want to send me some money, you're certainly welcome to it. I know they watch these videos because because I tag them and then they also message me. They're really great, but if you buy, where I live, if you buy the Tiny Wood Stove from tinywoodstoves.com, again, just like last year, this is not sponsored, Tiny Wood Stoves is not paying me to do this, and I bought everything all myself. Like, I paid for everything, so I'm not getting any free stuff, blah, blah, blah. So if you buy a Tiny Wood Stove, right, from tinywoodstoves.com, or another wood stove that I was considering, and I explained this last year, was the Hobbit Stove by Salamander Stoves. I went with tinywoodstoves.com at the time because they were experiencing, it was 2021, I think, when I ordered, and there was still some supply issues from the pandemic, or, you know, ongoing pandemic. So that's why I went with tinywoodstoves.com versus Salamander, the Hobbit stoves from Salamander Stoves. This is American. Salamander Stoves, I think, is UK. And I'm Canadian, so, you know, shorter distances. But anyway, if you get the, this is the, I don't know what it's called. It's like the wood storage add-on. It actually boosts your wood stove up off the ground. You can also, I think, get these extended legs. If you get either one of those, you don't need, at least where I live, you don't need a 1-inch air gap on your heat shield, there we go, on the heat shield that is on your floor. Because the wood stove is high enough that it's fine. I do have a 1-inch air gap behind my steel on my wall, and I can show you a shot of it if you would like to see, but my steel goes all the way up pretty much to the ceiling. There's maybe 5 inches like up in the ceiling of the tiny house where the steel doesn't go. The steel does not have to go that high, but I think it's just code in my area, and I mean, having more heat shield rather than less is probably fine. So the steel that's on my floor is more to manage ashes, right? Because ashes fall out of the wood stove like all the time. And I don't want the ashes, like hot coals and hot ashes, to be falling directly on my floor and damaging my floor. Although I think I do have a couple holes on my floor from last year. So that's mainly what the steel on the floor is about. Pros and cons of using steel. I didn't talk about this last year because I really wanted to give it a full year before I gave, you know, everyone an opinion on it. The con of steel is that it is cold AF. In the winter time, like it does not absorb heat and release heat slowly. Now there are a couple different solutions that you folks gave me last year that I do want to try for this year on that. Not going to talk about it in this video though. So it is cold. That was really nice in the summertime when it was like hot and the steel was always cold and I would just come and stand here and put my feet on here. But in the winter time, it can get really, 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 really cold. The steel, I mean, the wood stove heats the place up like crazy. Like I only have 150 square feet, so that's fine, but the steel is cold. So bear that in mind. The steel was also cheap, which is why I have steel. So if you're broke like me, you may want to go with steel over, you know, stone or anything like that. I wanted to go with stone, but I'm poor, okay? So, so I do have steel because some of you folks have been asking me what I've been using. And so yes, steel. The top of my wood stove is really dirty. So I'm gonna give it a quick wipe before I light it. And then I think there's still actually some old ashes in here, which is not ideal. Definitely. I think what had happened is I cleaned my wood stove out and everything like that in really late spring, and then I think that I had one more fire in late spring and just completely forgot about it. I don't know, probably not the end of the world, but I'm also not an expert. This will probably be the first fire that I light, and probably the only fire before I clean my flue pipe. I did clean it twice last year. I want to get into the habit this year of cleaning it monthly. It doesn't hurt to clean it more often, and also it will prevent fire, so that's always a great thing. This year I do have electric heat. You can see it's right here. I do have a baseboard heater this year. I do have electricity this year. Amazing. I mean, a lot of my wood stove videos that I recorded last year, I had the overhead light on because I used the Bluetti. I did a review on all of those things last year. They're somewhere on this channel. So it did appear that I had power last year, and I did have power last year with the Bluetti to some extent, you know. With the Bluetti, like I didn't have a TV up here, for example, right? I would use the Bluetti to occasionally charge my phone. I couldn't cook with the Bluetti. I mean, I'm sure you can. I think the Bluetti's powerful enough, but it's just, you know, I was already having to charge the Bluetti every 2 or 3 days. If I were to use my little toaster oven, for example, with the Bluetti, I would have had to charge it every day, and I was hauling water and all sorts of stuff. So this year I still don't have running water. I will never have running water. This cabin, this tiny house was always built to be a dry cabin, but I do have power. Super, super, super nice. My baseboard heater is very, very efficient. It's almost too efficient. You know, it's nice, but last night I had to actually turn my heat down even more. I think I had it set to, I have a hair in my mouth. I think I had it set to like 12 or 13 degrees, that's Celsius of course. But this little baseboard heater would still click on, and then the heat in my tiny house was sitting at 15 or 16 degrees, which is 16 degrees is slightly too warm to have a fire. I would rather it be cooler, if I'm being honest with you, because once I light this thing, heat like there is no tomorrow. There's a part of me that wants to go and have a shower first. But anyway, the nice thing about burning fires at this time of year, because it's still early, is that I don't have to worry about running this wood stove as long as possible. In the middle of winter, especially last year, when I was off grid, I didn't have power. It was important that I lit this stove right away and then kept it running for as long as possible, because it doesn't burn overnight. I covered this in other YouTube videos. There's things that you can do to help it burn as long as possible into the night, but it will not burn a full 8 to 12 hours for you, something at this size. The latest I think I could get it to burn was probably a good 3 to 4 hours, but otherwise you are refilling this wood stove constantly, like with little logs, at least once an hour, maybe even more depending on how you do it. So last year, what that resulted in, and I'm not complaining because I've never had wood heat before, it was really nice. I spent the majority of my time, Ninja, stop that please. No, can you wait? She's like, maybe I'll go in the litter box. No, please don't while I'm recording. Last year, what that resulted in is that resulted in me essentially just sitting in the tiny house, literally in a t-shirt. I would take my socks off because it would be too hot. My floor stays quite cool, no matter how warm it is in here, so that was always nice. But I was literally in a t-shirt. All of the windows in the tiny house were wide open, and it would be beautiful outside. It would be snowing. It was so nice. And I would just sit by my window, wide open, middle of winter, in a t-shirt, like looking outside, because that's how hot it would get in here. So even though I enjoy my electric heat, I do still want to use my wood stove as my main source of heat this year because it is cheap. The electric heat is really expensive, and also I honestly really enjoyed having wood heat last year. It was just, it's so nice. There's something cozy about having a fire. Is it a little bit of extra work? Yeah, sure, you know, but I don't know. I loved it. So, you know, I'm still harvesting firewood for this year. I'm building a woodshed. Oh my gosh, it's a lot. But I do still love having wood heat. It's super, super, super nice. I'm going to give this top a bit of a wipe. I'm going to turn the camera off. And I also forgot I need to check my kindling. I mean, this is not kindling. This is like what I like to call smaller pieces. They're larger than my kindling. I do have kindling though. Larger than my kindling, but smaller than sort of full-size pieces. So I need a whole bunch of this, and I think I may have to go chop a little bit more firewood. I don't have a huge stock of pieces that, ow, I just gave myself a sliver. I don't have a huge stock of pieces that are like this size, which is quite small, but larger than kindling. So I'm going to chop some firewood and wipe off the top here, because if there's anything on here, like, it looks like it's mostly just dust, but once I light this wood stove up, it's just gonna make everything like super stinky, which I do not want. So I'll do that, and then I will be right back. Oh, I forgot kindling. So I need to grab kindling, add my starters, probably matches. Where are my matches? Ugh. Does anyone else feel this disorganized when you light your first fire of the season? Okay. Yeah. I was like, do I even have everything? I'd have to buy new matches, actually. I tried using a lighter last year, but it wasn't as effective. I really enjoy using matches. Hey! And I like using these matches. They're very expensive though, so I don't know. We'll figure some kind of something out later this year, maybe. Okay. This is why there's ashes all the time, everywhere. It's just everywhere, honestly. Like, I have white sheets. I have never regretted having white sheets so much. Like, all my white sheets are stained brown from the ashes from this wood stove. It gets on everything. Anyway, my glass is pretty clean though, so that's good. I've noticed that the top of my wood stove, this cooktop right here, is getting a little bit of marks on it. I mean, there's not too much you can really do to prevent that, but I need to season this with cooking oil. Just like a high smoke point oil, like canola oil, for example. Just like you would with a cast iron pan. I didn't do that last year because I didn't really think it needed it, but this year it definitely does. You can also, of course, repaint your wood stove. I will probably never bother because, you know, I don't mind the look of a kind of, I guess, more broken in wood stove. Okay. Now, I do use a fire starter. You don't have to use a fire starter at all. But I do. I tried a couple different fire starters last year. I might transition more to paper, like using newspaper again this year, but we'll see. The reason I mainly used fire starter, so the one I use is this like extra flame. And if you want me to talk about this particular fire starter more later, I can. But it just looks like this. It's a more sort of natural like fire starter. I started using what brand was it? I can't even remember. Was it Zip? Maybe? Anyway, it was a very common brand. But I didn't like it because it smelled like chemicals, and I don't know, I didn't love it. The reason I mainly used fire starter last year was because I was lighting so many fires. Like, because I didn't have power last year, I had to light a fire. Stop it. My cat. I had to light a fire first thing in the morning, right when I woke up, which was around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock if I was being lazy, but I usually would try and wake up at 5 because the earlier I light a fire, the faster my space warms up. And then if it was really, really, really cold, like minus 25, my parents would come over and light a fire during the day. And then I would come again after work, light another fire. This year, because I have the electric heat, I won't have to do that, which will be nice. I'll just be able to set the electric heat and kind of go. But I'm probably going to do what I did right now, which is keep the electric heat very, very, very low. I like 10 degrees, and then still run my wood stove. Just, it's cheaper, blah, blah, blah. Throughout me just being in here and running around, it's like warmed up the space. Not much, but like a little bit. My space right now is... You can see the temperature inside and outside. Look at that. So the one in the house is my indoor thermometer. The one outside is outside. The moisture is not too bad, but it's a bit low. And it's 14, just under 15 degrees, which is like a really good temperature to have a fire, I find. But I'm not gonna have a very long fire today. probably only gonna burn it for maybe an hour. After I finish this recording, I'm gonna make dinner. So I'm gonna make dinner while the wood stove needs to be tended, because I'm already up and about making dinner anyway. So may as well. I didn't really talk about this too much last year, but a lot of people wanted, okay, not a lot of people, but like some people wanted more specifics about the wood stove. When you're lighting the wood stove, I keep this dampener at the top open. In the manual, it'll actually say that this top air control is just to keep your glass clean, and it actually doesn't have much effect on the wood stove and the fire itself. I have found this to be incorrect. This little top dampener actually has quite a lot, like once your fire's burning, that has quite a lot of control. Not as much as the primary and secondary, of course, but blah, 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 right? On the left, we have your primary, and on the right, you have your secondary. So when you're lighting the wood stove, you open up your top wide open, you open up your primary, and then you close your secondary. Once the fire gets burning a little bit, you can open up your secondary and start to close the primary and maybe this one up here, but you want to do this process really slowly, because otherwise you'll snuff your fire out. And that's just not a fun time for anyone. A snuffed fire sucks. So I will generally have two types of, well, actually technically three types of, not types, I should say, sizes of firewood for this wood stove. I'll have kindling, right? Which is, your standard kindling pieces. They're really small, really narrow, right? Then I have what's called medium-sized pieces, which could be slightly larger than kindling, or even something like this. Slightly larger than kindling, but not as large as if you were looking to burn your stove for a bit longer. Like, if you're looking for a bit of a longer burn, I would maybe try something a bit like this, maybe a little bigger. I did find last year that this wood stove doesn't really take pieces too large. Like, this piece is probably fine, but larger pieces don't burn down completely in this wood stove. So be careful of how large your pieces are. You want your wood to be, you want to have what's called a complete burn. So you want to, look at me, I'm so knowledgeable. I'm so knowledgeable this year. Last year I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I still don't know what I'm doing. But anyway, so when I'm building my fire, I usually use the log cabin method. This, I light it, I put it right in the middle of my log cabin, and then on the very top, I will put either larger pieces of kindling or maybe even like something like this, which is like, could be considered a larger piece of kindling or a medium piece or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to actually use, I'm not going to use this, which I just showed you. I'm going to use something a little smaller, something like this. Put a couple of those, again, slightly smaller piece, a couple of those in there. Oh, I might actually stack it up a little more. Yeah. Build it up just slightly more. Try something like that. We'll see how this goes. All this running around. I'm like hot. I'm wearing like a sweater and a vest and a jacket. And I am like super warm. Please don't fall. That is exactly why you have your steel here. All right, another thing that I also do is I don't close the door all the way. I leave the door cracked and I open a window, which I'm going to want to do anyway because it's going to get hot in here. Okay, I like thought that it had gone out already. Already? So I actually ended up opening 2 windows because it's, you know, it's not the middle of winter yet. It's still fall time. So it's not going to be super crazy in here. These pieces need to be smaller. Like this piece is like way too big. I need to take it out and I need to chop it. These pieces are all right. Like this piece is also a little on the big side for this wood stove. I'll probably take this out, chop it in half as well. Especially for right now, especially because we are going to be not burning this fire for very long. What I should do is I should grab my parents because they are in their new house. So I should walk over there and see if they want to come and have a fire. I'm not going to be burning this for very long because it will get too hot in here and then I won't be able to sleep tonight. This fire will only be probably about an hour or so. And then we'll do that. Put this up there. I got this new, it's not new, I guess. It's been in the family for a while, but it's new to me. This little shoe rack right here, and I think it's gonna be home to my like fire starting stuff this year. Because, you know, that's how it goes in a tiny house. Storage is a premium. By the way, this little wood bag is awesome. I bought a smaller wood bag. My parents have a really large wood bag, but I'm a small person, so. I love it. It's not actually warm, but that's gonna be it for me. I'll try and show you folks a little bit of shots. I'm gonna feed the pets because they're driving me crazy. Maui hasn't actually been bugging me since I told him to lie down, but he needs to be fed. Cats need to be fed. I gotta feed myself. And then, yeah, only gonna let this run for not very long because it was going to roast me out of here.